Saturday morning in Sucre, and you may be wondering, what's all this festivity about? The answer is simply that this is a local custom near the beginning of each school year to involve the children in a parade. I don't know if he was trying to bite me, but he was friendly. While La Paz usurped Sucre as Bolivia's official political capital more than a century ago, Sucre is the country's judicial and intellectual capital. It's home to its Supreme Court, the birthplace of Bolivia's independence, and home to South America's still thriving second oldest university, founded in 1624. At 9,200 feet elevation, it's famous for being dry and cool, and most pleasantly of all, sunny through most of the year. And that, along with its well-preserved architecture and youthful vibe, makes it a favorite place for discerning foreigners who come here to study Spanish or to just chill. When the Spanish founded the city in 1538, they called it Ciudad de la Plata de la Nueva Toledo, or the City of Silver of New Toledo. That, of course, was because of its importance as a silver mining town. After independence in the early 1800s, it got renamed for revolutionary hero Antonio San Jose de Sucre. Although a native Venezuelan, like his friend Simón Bolívar, Sucre served as Bolivia's second president from here, when the new Bolivian capital was still called La Plata. I'm here in the Casa de Libertad, historically perhaps Bolivia's most important building. This building faces the main plaza of Sucre, and it was here that on May 25th, 1825, that none other than the great liberator Simón Bolívar signed Bolivia's Declaration of Independence from Spain. That document is permanently displayed here. Walking across the main plaza of this great university, prestigious in all of Bolivia and throughout Latin America, it makes you think of the history not only of this city but this country, because it was from this university, among others, prominently among others, that the early inspiration for Bolivian and South American independence took root. The colonnade and the plaza that is in front of it on all four sides is historically the law school. This particular plaza and the building is now an administrative center, but the campus of the university exists not only in this sprawling edifice but in surrounding colonial buildings near the core of Sucre, and as such has pumped in much youthful vitality to Sucre's center. Well, I think never in my life have I eaten a meal in a bell tower. But that's exactly what I'm doing now. I arrived here at 11:59 a.m. I saw that breakfast was available until noon, I ordered the Bolivian breakfast off the menu downstairs, and someone carted it up 4 levels to the top of this bell tower. And I must say, it looks delicious. I've got toast with avocado. I've got scrambled eggs with onions, and it looks like cilantro. And of course, a little leafage with lettuce, and I've got a fruit plate. And to drink, maracujá, an exotic fruit for most people, but in Latin America, not so much so. A delicious fruit. That I wish I had at home. There's a certain tension and maybe even resentment that still lingers here over the fact that Sucre is no longer the country's real capital. But the switch in 1898 was, after all, an outcome of a civil war. The beautiful building you see over my shoulder that was built in the late 1890s was to have been Bolivia's new presidential palace. By the time it was finished, the capital had been moved. So it became, and still is, the governor's palace. This still is a functioning government entity, of course, and so it's not set up for tourists. But visitors are allowed to enter the inner courtyard, which is pretty quiet with nothing much going on here. But it's still a charming place. That is, if you take away that new Toyota pickup truck parked in here somehow. Getting around Sucre is very easy. You just hop on a bus and go just about anywhere you want to go for 1 Boliviano. It's about 14 cents US. Well, I've been dropped off by the bus at the closest place where I think I can reach where I'm going. I'm in the upper part of Sucre, which is to say up the hill, and I'm in a neighborhood that was originally well, one of the first residential neighborhoods of Sucre long ago, and that is Recoleta. So I'm headed to the plaza and the church, which was the original plaza of the town. So this is the Plaza de Recoleta. It's actually the oldest plaza in Sucre, and the church you see behind me is one of the older churches in Sucre. It was built in 1600. This plaza is obviously a favorite place for wedding photos. That's at least three parties of newlyweds that I've seen here in less than 20 minutes. Who's next?
¿Quién era cuál? Vamos a tal ir a comprar.
Perfecto, está bueno. Quiero de ladito, así, este estilo, digamos, ¿verdad?
I can't resist showing you one more neighborhood, the one I'm walking in now. It's called the neighborhood of the cats, which, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I like cats, so it's irresistible to come here. There's a story behind why this place is called the neighborhood of the cats. It is said that after Bolivia's war with Paraguay, In 1932 until 1935, the so-called Chaco War, which ended disastrously for Bolivia, by the way, that there were many widows of that war living in this neighborhood, and almost all of them had cats. So at some point a few years ago, the city fathers and mothers here decided it would be nice to recognize this neighborhood, and hence the name, the neighborhood of the cats. And as you can see, the streets have cat names. And of course, as these things happen, I've walked all over this neighborhood, and there's not a cat in sight. I mentioned the Chaco War, and it's part of the backstory of this neighborhood. It should be worth noting that Bolivia has not done well militarily. Since independence, it has fought against all 5 of its neighbors, and it is 0 for 5. And in addition to the Chaco War, perhaps the most disastrous conflict affecting this nation occurred in the late 1800s with Chile in the War of the Pacific. And in that one, Bolivia lost its access to the Pacific Ocean. Hence, it's been landlocked ever since. I asked one student of Bolivian history how this could be, how a nation like this could be a total loser when it's come to armed conflict. And he explained to me the reason. It seems reasonable. It was afflicted with having military authoritarian governments after independence. And those military leaders, most of them turned politicians, really didn't know anything else and sought to further their personal ambitions as well as heighten their reputations both nationally and internationally by fighting. And it didn't quite work out. Well, my dogged determination to find the cats has failed. The cats, as they say here, se fue. The people who live in this neighborhood aren't necessarily wealthy, they aren't. But Sucre has maintained itself in an exemplary way, which is of course why UNESCO recognizes it as a World Heritage Site. If this park resembles a European park, it's no accident. It was donated by a wealthy couple, Bolivian couple, in the late 1800s, who amassed a fortune in mining. And they had an affinity for European-style parks and decided to try to replicate that look in this park, which is today called Parque Boulevard. And I must say they did a fairly good job. It's a grand rectangular park with wide walkways and with attractions that appeal to families, including an unusual attempt at replication that may not have quite made it. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but it really wasn't supposed to be a replica of the Eiffel Tower, only an imitation. But here's something very interesting. This tower was built by the Eiffel Company. That's right. The same company under the auspices of the man after whom the Paris Tower was designed. Well, you got to admit, the view's pretty good up here, even if this thing is swaying in the wind.